In Palestine, tanks of the Israeli military forces broke into the Dheisheh refugee camp in Berlin. In Bolivia, government decided to break diplomatic relations with Israel in view of the genocide perpetrated by the occupying forces against the Palestinian people. In Venezuela, the government announced the association of the United States and Guyana that is to prepare an aggression against Venezuela. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We are sending out a live sign-up from the Gaza Strip. This is what it looks right now. The indiscriminate bombardments of Israel against supposed military targets, but which end in massacres against the civilian population, have not ceased. More than 8,000 dead, a figure that does not stop growing. It is also known through the spokesman of the Palestinian Health Ministry that the main electrical generator of the Al-Shifa Medical Complex and the International Hospital, two hospital institutions that house thousands of Palestinians seeking shelter from the incessant bombing, are hours away from stopping the main electrical generator. Threats of direct attacks against these health facilities also continue. Palestinians are definitely living hours of anguish, waiting for a ceasefire that isn't coming, and on the entry of food, water, and medicines. In the occupied West Bank, tanks of Israeli military forces broke into the Dheisheh refugee camp in Berlin. The Zionist occupation army continues its brutal incursions into the Gaza Strip, while the Palestinian resistance forces fed the occupation army's attempts to infiltrate Berlin. A Hamas spokesman claimed that Israeli troops began to move on the ground on several fronts and, in fact, launched a ground operation that it declined to announce. Hamas reported that Israel had inserted its tanks in places where the refugees from Berlin are located, but they were expelled. As part of its report, the occupation forces insisted on storming the areas of Nablus, Jenin, Ramallah, and Berlin in the occupied West Bank. From Gaza, correspondent Ahmed Ghanem reports us on the situation in hospitals in the Gaza Strip. Let's see.
We are here in the Department of Premature Babies at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. Most of these children are threatened with certain death in light of the fuel crisis affecting hospitals in the Gaza Strip. The Ministry of Health warned of a power outage in its hospitals, which could threaten more than 150 infants in these incubators.
Before the war or before the aggression, we could hardly perform our duty fully because of the scarcity of resources and the siege imposed. But after the recent shelling and the displacement of most of our people from the north, the burden on the hospital, and in particular on the incubator service, has increased considerably, and we have many admissions there who need artificial respirators, which of course need electronic power. And God forbid, if these people have their electricity cut off for a short period of time, all the children will face a slow death.
In light of warnings that the fuel needed to run the backup generators in Gaza hospitals will run out, many parents are expressing concern for their babies for fear that these incubators will stop working.
احنا خايفين كتير يعني كتير خايفين يعني مش خوف مش طبيعي احنا بنطالب الكهرباء تتوفر عنا بنطالب احنا المستشفيات يوفروا
We are very afraid. People are very afraid. We demand that we have electricity. We demand that the hospital provide everything we need for our children. We need everything. It has many shortages and deficits. It destroys the health of the children and causes them to die. We appeal to the whole world. We appeal to all people and we appeal to all countries.
Leaving the health sector out of military targets and providing all healthcare facilities with the necessary supplies for the sick and wounded in Gaza is a demand of the Palestinians in the face of the Israeli conflict.
The government of Bolivia decided to break diplomatic relations with Israel in view of the genocide perpetrated by the occupying forces against the Palestinian people. The foreign minister accused the government of Tel Aviv of committing crimes against humanity in its attacks on the Gaza Strip. Likewise, it condemned the aggressive and disproportionate Israel military offensive against Gaza and the threat to international peace and security. In this context, in 2009, the plurinational state of Bolivia had broken off diplomatic relations with Tel Aviv in protest against the attacks on the Gaza Strip, being later reestablished in February 2020 during the de facto government of Janine Áñez.
Consistent with the purpose and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, as stated in the note verbal read by the Vice Foreign Ministers, the rights of life, liberty, peace, the rejection of all types of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment established in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international law, as well as international humanitarian law, and in the framework of its principal position of the right to life, we are sending this official communication to the State of Israel, in which it has been stated we make known our decision as a plurinational state of Bolivia to break diplomatic relations with Israel. We also demand the cessation of the attacks in the Gaza Strip that have already caused thousands of civilians' fatalities and the forced displacement of Palestinians.
During his speech at the United Nations, Bolivia's representative to the UN, Diego Party, rejected Israeli attacks against the Palestinian people and declared the need for urgent action.
Reject the loss of life in any part of the world and the suffering of peoples regardless of their nationality. For this reason, we must act with urgency and we must do so coherently. The lives of Palestinian people, men and women, have the same value as those of all citizens of the world. In recent days, we have watched stunned these disproportionate attacks against civilians in Gaza. To date, more than 8,500 Palestinians have lost their lives. Some 70% of them are women and children. We are at a turning point in this conflict where Israel, as the occupying power, has decided to apply collective punishment to the Palestinians in Gaza.
The Bolivian representative also reiterated his government's unspeakable respect for the international law and the Charter of the United Nations and announced his government's decision to break diplomatic ties with the state of Israel. Let's take a listen to his words.
Bolivia has the utmost respect for international law, for the Charter of the United Nations, and for the member states, and we will go down on the right side of history. We are on the side of the rights of the Palestinian people. As a result, the people and government of Bolivia has taken the decision to break diplomatic ties from today with the State of Israel, because we consider it a state that does not respect life of peoples, of international law or international humanitarian law.
Let's take a short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We'll find news in different formats, new days, and more. Other studies coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Chile is home to the largest community of Palestinians of the Middle East. The creation of their football club, Palestine, was not only a sporting decision, but also a political one. The strategy of the Palestinian migration to face the Zionist expulsion and to get the name of the country always present. A clear example of how sports and geopolitics often go in hand in hand.
There's more going on in Chile than the competitions of the Pan American Games that are currently taking place. Chile is home to the largest Palestinian community in the world outside of the Middle East. Today they are suffering from the massacre of their people from afar, so in the midst of the sporting spirit that prevails in the country, they are demonstrating, asking for help, looking for solidarity.
We are witnessing the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. Today we are witnessing through the videos, through the cameras, the last gasp of the Gaza Strip.
My city is completely destroyed. Not a single house left standing.
They stood in front of the government house, marched through the center of Santiago, and even gave a solidarity concert. But despite the important Palestinian presence in the country, the Chilean state only accepted a Palestinian embassy on national territory in December 2022. Until then, relations between the two peoples were mainly cultural, commercial, and of course, sporting. Chile also has the only football team representing Palestine, which has been in existence since 1920.
This is a club that has a peculiarity, that has a people behind, isn't it? We know that many times we represent not only the Palestinian fans that are here, but also the people of the Gaza Strip and Cisjordan, who are very happy with the sporting results that we can obtain.
It seems absurd to deny the connections between sports and geopolitics. The link is inextricable, and the Palestinian club knows it well. Its origins go back to the first migrations during the Ottoman Empire and then to the Nakba, the expulsion of thousands of Palestinians in 1948 after the Israeli occupation. At that time, the Palestinians in Chile were already looking for ways to maintain their presence in their territory.
They professionalized the Palestinian Sports Club to give a voice to Palestine, to tell what the Palestinian people were suffering at the moment.
For this reason, the coaches and players, although they have no direct descendants, are kept informed of what is happening in these lands where, despite the siege, a large part of their supporters follow every match.
We started on October 7 and October 8. We had to play with Colo-Colo, and we had two direct leaders of the club trapped in Palestine.
In 2016, the entire staff was able to travel, marking their lives forever.
I think that the fact of having lived it personally is a different vision than what you can imagine. Israel's objective was on a small screen to continue the occupation.
Palestine Club supports sports training schools like this one, which visits its stadium in La Cisterna. Boys and girls who through sports can meet their ancestors like Javier Aboueid, who was a minor player in the club until he traveled to the land of his grandparents and never came back. Today, he is an outstanding professional who has turned youth sports into international politics, here 10 years ago.
Our goal with the peace process was to have a peaceful way to end the occupation. Israel's objective was on a small screen to continue the occupation.
Almost 3 decades after the failed peace agreement, the most urgent challenge is to survive the massacre of this Palestinian Holocaust that, in the midst of world indifference and elite sports, seems reminiscent of the 1936 Berlin Olympics.
The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Dheisheh Rodriguez, condemned the statement of the Guyana government concerning the consultative referendum on the Esequibo. In a press conference in the Simón Bolívar press room of the Miraflores Palace, the high government official responded to the Guyanese attempt to impede the right to vote in the consultative referendum. Rodriguez denounced the chain of provocations by the Guyanese government on the Esequibo, referring to the move to go to the International Court of Justice to demand measures to prevent the holding of a referendum in December 3rd in Venezuela. The Vice President said that this is an unprecedented action that violates international law and the UN Charter, and is a flagrant violation of Venezuela's sovereignty.
I think the Venezuelan people have shown their courage. So what they are willing to defend, what they are willing to do to defend their constitution, their legal order, I think there are lots of examples to show, to display what we are capable of. So don't urge the Venezuelan people, don't provoke the Venezuelans, because we are a peace nation. We stand up for peace, for the constitution, for defending our peace. But we know how to defend ourselves in all fields.
The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Dheisheh Rodriguez, explained that Venezuela has announced and proved through titles and documentary evidence that the territory of the Guyana Esequibo belongs to it, and that the various war has been most shameful and fraudulent actions against its territorial integrity.
I'll invite you to read the Geneva Agreement. There was no such item because there was no agreement. Guyana didn't want it at that time. That's why it wasn't. So that's why Guyanese government violates the Geneva Agreement of 1966. Again. Why this happened? Because in 2015, when good offices have been stopped because of the demise of an official, there appeared ExxonMobil company. We have made some discoveries of fuel in that territory. So what the Guyana did, ended negotiations because the government had in mind another plan. They didn't want negotiations.
We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel, teleSUR English, that you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to set up to date on the world's more recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Spanish social workers party PSOE and the Republican left, the Catalonia ERC, reached an agreement on an amnesty law with a view of Sanchez's investiture. The acting Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and the President of the Generalitat of Catalonia, Pere Aragonés, have closed on Tuesday an agreement on the content of the amnesty law and have delegated to the negotiating teams the definite closing in the next hour of a pact to support the investiture. As confirmed by the PCOE and the ERC in a joint statement, both leaders have spoken by the telephone in the afternoon and have uploaded the latest details of the future amnesty law and of the agreement for an investiture that will also contain political and economic issues. On Tuesday, local media reported that 2 people were injured in a shooting at the hospital in the city of Toda in central Japan. Meanwhile, authorities recorded that the suspect, aged between 50 and 70, fled on a motorcycle and his whereabouts are unknown. Elsewhere also reported that 2 hostages have been taken inside a post office in neighboring Warabi. It is not yet clear whether the 2 incidents are related. However, Japanese media, citing unmanned police sources, report that the post office hostage taker is also the suspect in the hospital shooting. The 2 injured people have been identified as a doctor and an elderly patient. The hostages are 2 women in their 20s and 30s, according to reports. The post office mentioned by Warabi authority is about 2.5 kilometers away from Torashu General Hospital. In China, the astronauts of the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft have returned safely and in good health to Earth, according to a statement from China's Manned Spaceflight Agency. The return capsule landed on the Earth orbit at 8:11 a.m. on Tuesday in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region in the north of the country. After the landing, a medical team arrived at the site confirming that the astronauts are in perfect health. The Shenzhou 16 spacecraft lifted off on 30 May 2023, remaining in orbit for a period of 154 days, during which a total of 670 experiments were carried out. And we have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, I want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events, tell you the stories of the people of the South, and ready hegemonic media dominance. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media networks, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok.